So Anna, welcome to the show. Good to see you again. This is the second time we meet, and we're still on video, and we still haven't met in person. But I'm just trying to remember why we met. We met because you went on Balance the Grind. That's right, wasn't it? That was right. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah,
that's right too. Yeah.
That was good. That was a good episode. And we had a long chat about your pet food, which we have now tried, and our dog is happily enjoying. But I will let you sort of tell the story about that as well. Before we go into how you ended up running this business, just for the sake of all the audiences, can you give us a rundown on your business, what it does, and what sort of stage you're at in your business life cycle? And then we'll sort of get into the journey afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. So I run Lyka. Lyka is a direct-to-consumer pet wellness company. So what we do is we focus on health and not shelf life through the food that we provide for our customers. So we provide minimally processed food from whole food ingredients, and that's shipped to our customers through a direct-to-consumer subscription model. We're about 3 years old as a business. So we started in 2018. And we've just raised our Series A, a 6.5 million round. So we're, I guess, that scale up, all things happening phase.
And that's a big, chunky Series A. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. So well done on that.
Yeah, definitely.
So now I love the story of why you started this business. I think it's a really good one. Let's go back a little bit and sort of explain where your career started and how you ended up starting this business 3 years ago. Because I think it's the kind of story that I think a lot of people can relate to, not necessarily with pets, but with whatever it is, and as to why they might end up starting a business. So yeah, run us through that because I like it.
Yeah, definitely. Look, so going way back, I studied finance and maths at uni, so very quantitative background. Dabbled a bit in actuarial, but most recently worked at Bain & Company as a management consultant. So yeah, I was working there for about 5 years, and it was an awesome job. Like, I loved the work, the people, and or the travel as well. But ultimately, I wasn't ever super passionate about the clients that I was working with. Like, these were always these really large corporations, and, there was nothing that really connected with my interest. So I kind of always knew that I wanted to start a startup. I just loved the idea of creating something from nothing and working in an area that I really cared about. And yeah, I mean, it was a personal journey with my dog that led me to start this particular business. I have a dog called Lyka. She is my best friend. Like, I love her to bits. She traveled around with me. So I lived with my work in 5 different countries. She came with me. I had to buy her food in a whole lot of different places and different languages. And kind of in this parallel she was having this parallel journey with her health. So she just wasn't at optimal health. She was itchy all the time, to the point of like having scars from scratching so much. She was shedding a lot, to, again, just having bald patches on her legs. And the one that really got me was her teeth were so bad that the vet said, we're going to just have to pull them out soon. And she was only 4 or 5 at the time. So that really shocked me, because as a pet parent, I thought I was doing everything right. I was feeding her, premium food. I was walking her all the time, but everything wasn't working. So I started researching the industry, her food, what was going in it. I was quite shocked. The distinct moment was when we were in Chile, and I was buying her a bag of food on Google Translate, translating the Spanish ingredients to English, and then still not understanding them in English. So at that point, I decided to start cooking for her. So that was just incredible. Within weeks, the shift in her health was so mind-boggling. She just stopped itching, her shedding dropped almost to nothing. Even our friends were kind of commenting on how much energy she had. So yeah, that was 2015. She hasn't gone back to commercial food since. After living in Chile, we moved to San Francisco, and I loved the time there. Again, that startup kind of culture,
Yep.
got to experience the US market and just see how advanced and innovative it was. And that's sort of where Lyka was born, where I built the business on the side, sort of at night times and on weekends. And then eventually in 2018 moved back to Australia to launch it.
And you know what I love about this story is that you've got no history of, e-commerce or food production or anything like that. In fact, you've got the opposite. You've got this highly analytical background. And yet you come across a problem and you've used that background and skill that you've had to create a problem and then thought, you know what, I need to take this to the world. And I just love the way entrepreneurs naturally sort of move into these spaces that you would have never foreseen that when you left college, right? I'm going to own a pet food company. It's not something you would have thought.
No, I mean, look, I've always loved animals. I wanted to be a vet when I was a kid, so I've always loved animals. But running a pet food company, nope, definitely not something I thought I'd be doing. I think, yeah, that outside-in perspective is so valuable because it's just brings a different way of looking at the problem or the industry, which maybe insiders won't. Just aren't thinking outside the box. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenging ramp up curve in terms of understanding all these topics. But I think if you're willing to do it, anything's possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you've been going quite some time. As you said, you've just completed a big capital raise, and that's always an interesting experience for someone who hasn't necessarily done that before. But if you think about all the different challenges you would have had, and you would have had a number, what, I guess, there's probably two parts to this question. What was maybe the hardest thing that you had to overcome? And I'm sure there'll be many more, but so far, or what was the biggest mistake that gave you the greatest learning? And I think this is always interesting for people.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And to be honest, very hard to just pinpoint on one. I think, oh man, so many mistakes along the way. I think if you're not making mistakes, you're doing something wrong.
Yep.
But in terms of the hardest thing, look, I think for me, definitely that early stage, like the very, very beginnings, I found really, really tough. I bootstrapped Lyka for about the first year and a half. I just wanted to have a bit more confidence in the business, not quite product market fit, but just to make sure it was on the right track before actually getting investors on board and kind of getting cash on the table. So, as a bootstrap founder, you are doing everything, absolutely everything from ordering ingredients. Like I was literally going to the supermarkets and Woolies and buying food, to supervising our kitchen team, to, talking to customers, dropping off boxes, plus trying to build this business alongside the actual operation. So, I mean, that was really tough, exhausting, lots of long hours. But I think probably the hardest part for me was just, it just felt like I wasn't using my skill set to its full potential. It really did feel a bit of a step down from what I was doing previously, where, as a consultant working with executives and traveling the world and kind of, living this completely different life. And at that point, you don't know if, the business is going to make it or, go to the direction you want it to. So, yeah, it was a real challenge for sure. After raising, obviously I could build a team and get people on who actually were experts in all the areas. But I think for me, the biggest learning from that time was actually just the fact that I got really familiar with the business and very broad areas. I wrote code, I made ads, I literally did everything. And although I wasn't necessarily crash hot at everything, what it allowed me to do is actually hire the right people by understanding what good looks like, what those skills, what's needed to really excel in those roles, and B, I think have great conversations with those people where I could actually add value and kind of just really build and work strategically with the team once I made those hires, versus if I hadn't touched any of those areas, I think it would be much harder.
Absolutely. And look, you mentioned something there that I want to sort of unpack a little bit, which was that you said that you were going to Woolies to buy the ingredients. So is all the food made here and you make the food within the business? You don't outsource that to anyone? And is it all done locally here in Australia?
Yes, yeah, definitely. We make everything in-house. We have our own production kitchen that's based in Sydney.
Yep.
And I think it's a really big differentiator in the market for sure.
Absolutely. Is there any other pet food company that makes their food here in Sydney? I can't imagine that there is there?
Well, look, many, like 80% plus of the industry is processed food.
Yep.
And with processed food, you have, those really long supply chains where typically ingredient sourcing is done all over the world and production, again, is done all over the world. So, yeah, by far the majority of the market would not be producing in Australia, no.
No. So how much are you, I'm intrigued by this. So how big's the kitchen, I guess? I know you don't have to answer that exactly, but how much are you pumping out? How are you using local ingredients as well, or are you sourcing some of that from overseas? Just give me a little bit more. I'm fascinated by this because I think it's a real uniqueness of your business.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of sourcing, 85 to 95% of our ingredients are sourced locally, just depending on the recipe. And the only reason we source outside of Australia is if the product isn't found here. So,
Yep.
for example, turmeric, it's a spice that's grown in India. You can't find locally grown turmeric.
Nope.
Coconut as well. We don't have many coconut trees. We go out to Indonesia for those. And in terms of the production kitchen, it's pretty big. we've made over 2 million meals
Wow.
since we started. So yeah, look, it's big.
That's
It's
an
pretty.
impressive operation. So this leads beautifully into my next question, which is, we're in a lockdown. Hence, you are at home and I'm in a studio all on my own here. How has that impacted you all the way through? So you had this business pre-pandemic. We obviously had the initial lockdown. You're Sydney-based, so that wasn't too much of a lockdown. And then obviously we're in a much, much longer lockdown now, and you would have had to have grown and onboarded people and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know whether you're still able to operate your kitchen. Talk to me about the impact that's had on you.
Yeah, look, I think as a business, we've been really lucky. We've had a lot of tailwinds due to the lockdown that have come into our favor. Two specifically, one being home deliveries and e-commerce, where the whole market's really seen big boom. And the second thing is, of course, the puppy boom, where I'm not sure if
Yes,
you've
of
noticed, but
course.
people are getting puppies everywhere. I think at one point, even breeders were sold out for sort of a year in advance, and even the rescue shelters were running really low, which was just great news. So yeah, look, that's been really positive on the demand side. I guess on the team side, that's where the challenge comes in. As you know, working from home, I think we're all in the same boat here, but it's definitely a lot harder than being in an office together and, throw in this, high growth startup and everything changing and kind of chaos all the time. It's much harder to manage when you're in different rooms. And of course, our production kitchen, our big focus there is just keeping the team safe. Our kitchen is out in Western Sydney, so it's sort of in the really high risk area at the moment. And we've done everything we can in terms of putting in procedures to keep the team as safe as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be, and the puppy boom. I'd forgotten about the puppy boom. In fact, someone told me the other day, the cost of puppies is up 280% or something within the last 12 months because they were buying one. And I asked them how much. And I think when we bought our dog, it was like $2,000, $3,000 or something like that. And I think this gentleman was paying $12,000, $13,000 for a puppy. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money for a puppy. But yeah. That's good business to be in, breeding, I guess. And obviously, yeah, the knock-on effects for you. So what about you? As a founder, you have been through quite a journey. You've lived all over the world. You've gone from financial services and, like you said, executives to running a pet food business in a pandemic. Is there anything that you have fundamentally changed the way you think about based off the pandemic? Because the pandemic has changed a lot of people's thinking. So is there anything that's fundamentally changed, a belief perhaps, or just something that you view it? And also, is there any habit that you've picked up now since we've been in lockdown for quite some time? People are picking up new habits that perhaps they wouldn't have had before.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So whether anything has changed
Let me give you an example.
fundamentally
I'll
for
give you an
me.
example. So as recruiters, we speak to people all day, every day. And the
Mhm.
conversations we have now are not the same conversations we had 2 years ago, even though we're talking about the same kind of roles. And a lot of people's perspectives on everything have changed. So I think, for us, I think the biggest thing we've got now is the first two questions anyone asks us about any company is what impact are they going to be able to have? Because they want something that has a meaning. It seems to have really stirred up this feeling in a lot of people. And secondly, it's not what's the working from home plan now, it's what's the working from home plan when we get back to normal. And those two questions would have come more towards the end of a process, whereas now they won't even entertain talking about something until they know that. So it's brought,
Yeah.
things that were concerns before, but it's brought them right up to the forefront, and I think they'll stay there. So that's kind of what I mean by perhaps a different way of thinking. It's things that maybe weren't as important, but now have really, really resonate with you.
Yeah, look, I think what has, I guess, as a team, what probably resonates more now than before is just that connectivity and also context setting.
Mhm.
I think probably like being in the office, we sort of take both of those things for granted, and particularly the context side of things, where you know, you might just be sitting and overhearing different conversations, just absorbing information that you normally you don't even realize.
Yep.
So I think in terms of the way we work, that's definitely had an impact. And to be honest, we're still trying to figure it all out. But we are building in sort of more, I guess, distinctive ways of doing both those things. So like one example would be like brown bag lunches, where we connect every few weeks. Everyone just orders takeout, and we talk about a topic, like a random topic, something that someone's working on, just to try and like get that like both the connectivity but also that information sharing across the organization. So I think there's still a lot of uncertainty and a lot of, who knows what the future holds in
Absolutely.
terms of how we work going forward, but definitely like making better use of being separated, and how, like, what is there that we can put in place to keep everyone really engaged and ultimately enjoying their work.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. That I call it learning by osmosis. And it's
For
it's
sure.
actually my biggest fear, not so much during lockdown, because lockdown hopefully is not forever, it's for a period of time, but with this blended approach to work that a lot of people are having, and also quite a lot of large organizations going completely remote. Learning by osmosis in the traditional way will disappear, because you do learn a lot just by being in a room with people who've done the job more or have different opinions, both from more experienced people and more experienced people learning from younger people as well. It works both ways. So I worry as a person about how that's going to occur in companies moving forwards. And I have no idea what the answer is, but it is something. What about a habit? Have you had any new habits that have sort of spawned out of this?
Yeah, I mean, look, an interesting one is probably being more consistent in terms of when I go to sleep, when I wake up, and therefore having a bit more structure around my day and my work schedule. And I think that's been a really positive change, because what I've really noticed is that morning is like my best thinking time. And I've really been able to shift my day to actually try and make more use of that and sort of block out time really early. I'm talking, I try and start like 7 a.m. now, because I just am much better thinking 7 a.m. versus say even 2 or 3 p.m. I think being kind of locked away and having a bit more control as to what goes on in your environment has been positive in that sense.
Well, I think we're all getting to know ourselves a little bit better than perhaps we did. So that can't be a bad thing, surely. And if you don't like what you see, then I guess you've got some time to do something about it. But that's definitely something. Now, talk to me about the raise. That's a significant raise, so well done. It's not a natural thing for anybody, I think, capital raising and raising funds. It's a learned art. How have you found that? It's something that will probably be ongoing in your journey, but how did you find it? And I think what a lot of people want to know is, have you got any advice on doing it? Because a lot of people are going into that phase now.
Hmm. Yes, fundraising, always a fun time. I think, yeah, look, it is a very big, a very big, I'm not going to call it time sink, but a very big time allocation while it's happening.
Yep.
I think in terms of learning and kind of what I think has definitely helped us in terms of achieving that fundraise is the importance of pitch and storytelling and kind of really getting your vision and that story down on that slide and that deck, but not only there, but being able to articulate it really well. And I think that's one of those things that's really easier said than done, because oftentimes founders have this rough kind of idea or vision of where they're going to get to, but to be able to articulate that really clearly and to show data as to how and why you will get there, that I think takes a lot of upfront time and kind of iteration as well. So I guess my biggest tip would be to invest that time upfront in order to really nail down your storyline, your pitch, iterate it, potentially try and get it in front of some lower risk investors first, to be able to get that feedback on before you kind of really go out there and go hard. And I guess the other learning is, it takes time, stay positive. There's going to be a lot of no's along the way, but each no is closer to a yes.
Exactly right. It does take time. I think that's the number one thing anyone we ask that question for says, forget how long you think it's going to take. It's going to take a lot longer. Now, as you know, that part of this platform is to really sort of help you articulate your story to a different audience as well. You're going to be growing. There's no question. You're ready to scale. In your eyes and how you see it, if you are someone who is watching this show thinking, I really love what she does, it's something that I really am fascinated by, I love what that business is doing, I'm going to want to work there. Just speaking to them sort of directly, why should someone want to come and work at Lyka?
Well, dogs. I mean, do I need to say more? Yeah, look, that's definitely one of the big pluses. I think working with dogs and animals is really fun. I think in general, like why Lyka? I mean, I'd say two things. One is our ambition and vision. And if you're passionate about helping dogs and other pets live their best life, and want to make a real difference in their life, that is definitely one thing that our team really share in common. I think our team are really like-minded in that goal and kind of wanting to go above and beyond and so committed to that cause. So that's definitely one big plus. And on the other side, look, our culture is very much, I'd say, a mix of like high performance and achievement and fun. I think on the high performance side, we really try and get the best team, the best people at what they do. And our team is really diverse. I mean, we have everything in-house from tech to creatives to marketers to operators. So I think there's a lot of magic in just, having a group of people with really diverse skill sets, all just absolute rock stars in what they do and coming together to create these solutions. And of course, the other side to that is fun. As I mentioned, working with dogs, looking at dog content all day, it's pretty great. It's hard to get sick of.
Tell me, do you, when you're in the office, does everyone bring their dog in? Is it just pandemonium?
Yeah, we work in a dog-friendly office, of course. So anyone can bring in their dog. Look, it's not too crazy. I think the dogs that come all the time are really good at being office dogs. They have their beds, they're very chill, know how to get snacks and attention when they want it. But yeah, we do have some crazy days, like photo shoots can be very chaotic. We also do events where we bring like influencers and their dogs in. So those times, pretty crazy. But normal life, I think it's, just the perfect touch of fun.
Imagine when you have 60 staff in there with 60 dogs. I can't even imagine what that might be like. I think that would be Centennial on a hot Sunday or something like that. It would just be chaos.
Yeah, we might need to put a bit of a roster in place at that point, but I'm sure the dogs would have a ton of fun.
Absolutely. Anna, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been awesome to hear your story and how you got to where you are. And it's great to see you really, wellness for dogs is not something you hear about. And I think having heard how much of an impact it had on Lyka's life when you changed it. I think it's something that a lot of people are going to be very interested to learn more about. So I'm sure this is going to go from strength to strength.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure.